parents and sister got me expelled from college with false accusation because she was rejected from her dream college. 7 years later they showed up at my door saying she passed away in an accident. This is gonna be kind of long, please read until the end because there's a lot of context. 7 years back, I was expelled from college 3 months after I started because of a false and horrible rumor that my parents started about me. The only reason they did so was because my sister wanted to get into the same college but couldn't, which shouldn't have come as a shock because her grades were nowhere as good as mine, but for some reason, she and my parents were still devastated when they found out she hadn't been accepted into her dream college but I had. To my parents, she had always been the golden child, so I was not surprised when they refused to cover my tuition and told me to make my own arrangements. Obviously, they were trying very hard to make sure that I wouldn't be able to go to the college of my choice, just because my sister couldn't. But I wasn't ready to give up, so I spoke to my grandparents, and convinced them to co-sign my student loan, and that's how I ended up, against all odds, exactly where I wanted to be. By then, I had already moved out of my parents' house because I was clearly no longer welcome there. I don't think I ever had been, in the first place, but by then, the environment had become so hostile that I could tell that they were willing to kick me out, and so, before they could do it, I left on my own. But unfortunately, somehow, my sister found out that I had ended up in that college anyway, and she complained to our parents. So she, along with a couple of her friends and her parents, started spreading rumors that I was dealing in college, and they take stuff like that very seriously. As soon as the rumor started picking up speed, the authorities found out about it, and I ended up being reported. There were a lot of investigations that were cut out by the cops and the authorities, and somehow, they were able to find a stash of marijuana in my dorm room. I'm guessing my parents bribed their way into it, and it wouldn't have been difficult for somebody to sneak their way into the room and place it there without getting caught, since my roommate and I had a lot of friends who kept coming in and out of the room. Besides, there were already a lot of rumors doing the rounds about me selling drugs on campus, and a couple of people had even said that I had offered it to them, probably either because my family had bribed them or maybe just because they wanted to be a part of the drama. Either way, the situation seemed impossible, and even though I knew I was innocent and so did my roommate, the authorities did not look kindly upon me. It would be impossible to pinpoint anybody to blame for all that, especially when the truth was so complicated, and so, even though I begged and pleaded, it made no difference and I was expelled. And if you think that that was the worst of it, there's a lot more to come. After I got kicked out of college, I literally had nowhere else to go. My parents had told my grandparents about what had been going on with me, and it wanted nothing to do with me because they believed that there was no smoke without fire. Besides, the evidence seemed irrefutable at that point, and I don't exactly blame them for not believing me when I told them that I was innocent and had nothing to do with drugs because of the stash in my room. Anyway, I didn't have any money because whatever I had saved from working part-time jobs in high school had all been spent already while I was trying to make arrangements for myself to be able to go to college. The student loan was ineffective because, well, I'd been expelled. But I still had to return whatever money had been spent on my education already, and I knew that I could not default on it because otherwise, my grandparents would have to pay for it. I was home wasn't unemployed, and I only had a couple of months as a grace period before I had to start repaying the amount that had already been paid for my tuition. The only thing that I got slightly lucky about was that marijuana had been decriminalized in my state, so I didn't get into a lot of trouble with the law because it was the only drug that had actually been found in my possession, not narcotics or whatever. But back then, that was not really something that gave me any hope at all, though now I recognize the huge blessing that it was. Anyway, after I got kicked out, I had nobody to count on, but thankfully, my roommate was very nice to me and her parents took me in for a couple of weeks. However, I did not want to be a burden on them, so I took up the first job that I could find and started working as a cashier in a grocery store. I lived as truly as I could, started saving up money, and within a month, I had thanked my roommate and her parents and left so I could move into the cheapest apartment I could find. It was in a terrible neighborhood and I had to share the place with 3 roommates even though the apartment itself was small, and I made the best of my situation. I started taking up more jobs, and even on the weekends, I wouldn't allow myself to rest because I knew that I had nobody else to count on. In all honesty, I don't know how I survived those years because it was all just a blur to me. All I did was work, all I thought about was work, and the only time I would ever feel happy was when I received the payments from my work. I won't bother with the more boring details of my life, but in the past, I've worked as a receptionist, waitress, bartender, saleswoman, and whatnot. It was hard work, none of it was easy, but somehow, I got through it and managed to move out of that tiny apartment into a better one, which was still kinda small, but at least I didn't have to share it with anyone. And then, finally, I bought my own house last year with my own money because a couple of years ago, I finally struck gold. About 4 years back, when I had been working as a receptionist at a real estate firm, The only thing that I would think all day was that I could do this too. So when a spot opened up, I applied and luckily, I got the job. Since then, there has been no looking back because I knew that I had to make the most of my opportunity. I didn't have a college degree like most people there, but what I did have was experience with people, and I guess I was charming enough. So slowly, but steadily, I started climbing the corporate ladder. And last year, finally, I was promoted to an upper management position, and I think I've never been more proud of myself in my entire life. After my promotion was finalized, I decided to buy a house of my own after selling people's houses for so many years. I don't mean to brag, but I literally went from rags to riches because I make 6 figures annually and I'm one of the best and most valued employees in my company. I've thought about going back to college a couple of times, just to finish my degree, but other than that, I'm really happy with my life and how it has turned out. Of course, I've had no contact with my family over the past couple of years, and neither have they tried to contact me. I'm fine with that. I don't really miss them, and I think I'm much better off without them. I do sometimes talk to my friends from high school, and of course, I'm still in touch with my roommate from college because we became good friends, even though we had known each other for just 3 months. The only people I've never missed in the past 7 years are my parents and my sister because they tried to ruin my life, even though they didn't succeed. I've not heard from them, nor have I heard about them because I've made it very clear to everyone that I know that I don't want to hear about anything that they are going through, good or bad. People have been respectful of that, so unfortunately, I didn't find out that my sister had passed away last month until my parents visited me recently with that news just this week. When they showed up, I was obviously very surprised because I hadn't been in touch with them for the last 7 years, and naturally, I didn't know how they had even found out where I lived. Later on, they told me that they had begged my roommate and her parents to tell them, and eventually, they did, but only because they kept bringing up the fact they had already lost one daughter, and they didn't want to lose another. Anyway, when they showed up, the first thing that they did was hug me and tell me how proud they were of me. It felt odd and unnatural because even when I was younger, they never appreciated me for any of my achievements, out of fear that it would make my sister jealous. But anyway, at the time, I had been really shocked by the news of my sister's passing, so I tried to be kind to them in spite of everything they had done to me in the past. We made some small talk. They told me about the car accident that had taken my sister's life and cried about it for a bit while I consoled them. And before people started calling me a doormat, it had been 7 years since I had seen them last, so of course, I was also having a lot of mixed feelings about the situation. I never liked my sister. I hadn't exactly forgiven them for what they had done to me either, but even then, I'm still a human being. I just couldn't bring myself to slam the door on my grieving parents, especially when I was feeling so lost and confused. If that makes me a doormat, like a lot of my friends have already said, then fine, maybe I am. But anyway, after speaking to my parents for a while, they finally addressed the elephant in the room and told me that they were here to apologize for everything that had happened when I was in college, and told me that they shouldn't have done what they did. At the time, they had just been too blinded by the fact that one of their daughters hadn't managed to get into the college that she wanted, and so, when my sister accused me of being an addict and told them that I did not deserve this, they decided that they were going to set the record straight for everyone, and in the process, they ended up ruining my life. They claimed that until recently, when they spoke to my roommate, they had no idea that I actually had nothing to do with drugs and that my sister had been lying about the whole thing. According to them, she had apparently been feeding them with lies about me ever since I had left home, and although they had been skeptical to believe it initially, she had lied to them with such conviction that ultimately, they had no choice but to believe that I was a drug addict who had apparently plagiarized all her essays to get into college before she had even applied. And of course, after that, the college authorities must have believed that she was the one who had plagiarized it and rejected her on the basis of that. Naturally, no such thing had happened. She had made it all up, and they were finally realizing it now after speaking to my roommate. So now, they wanted to apologize to me and try to repair their non-existent relationship with me. But when they said that, I don't know why, I just lost it at them, and I started screaming, telling them that they had no business coming here to apologize to me 7 years after they had tried to ruin my life in the worst way possible. I told them that I did not believe a word of their lies, and the fact that they were trying to throw their dead daughter under the bus just because she couldn't defend herself anymore was even more despicable. That's exactly what I thought they were doing. I thought that they were trying to make it seem like they had no idea that I was innocent, and my sister had convinced them that I was a terrible person who did not deserve to go to the college of my dreams, so by hook or by crook, I had to get kicked out. But I did not buy it. I thought that they had known it all along, and they had in fact helped my sister get me kicked out somehow. So I accused them of it outright, and I told them that I did not want their apology because I knew that they were only apologizing since they had lost one daughter, and now, I was their only hope because they wouldn't have anybody else to count on to take care of them when they were older or to let them play with grandkids and stuff. I told them that I could see right through them and they actually seemed shocked when I started yelling at them to get out. They told me that they were telling me the truth and that they were not trying to throw anybody under the bus. They genuinely had no clue that my sister had been lying to them about me and they had nothing to do with any sort of bribery or planning anything in my room like I was accusing them of doing. But I wasn't having any of it. I just kept yelling at them until they left and then I called my roommate up to speak to her because even though I really